You're welcome to the Gavel. I'm Linda Akibi. The Senate concluded the screening of ministerial nominees on Monday, July 7th, and confirmed 45 out of the 48 nominees sent to it by President Bola Tinubu. The three nominees not confirmed are former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, Mrs. Stella Okotete from Delta State, and Abubakar Danladi from Taraba State. Now, according to Senate President Godswill Akpabio, the nominees were not confirmed because they are still undergoing security checks. Let's take a look at how the final day of the ministerial screening exercise unfolded.
Out of the mouth of...
For 6 non-consecutive days, we watched ministerial nominees mount this lectern and present themselves to be screened by the Senate. We saw nominees take a bow and exit the stage. Some called to task over discrepancies in academic qualifications and controversial comments and tweets. A nominee overcome with emotions mid-presentation, and a nomination withdrawn. But we never saw the Senate go into a rowdy session during the Senate screening until Monday, when the former Minister of State for Labour, Mr. Festus Keyamo, was before the upper chamber. Mr. Keyamo was the last of 48 nominees to be screened and confidently informed the Senate how he had spent the last 30 years using the instrumentality of the law to advance the cause of democracy and strengthen the powers of the Senate.
I felt that if I looked at all the provisions of the law, and I felt the military had to bow to this Senate, had to subject itself to the authority of the Senate. And so on my own, I wrote then to the Senate President, Senator David Mark, I wrote to the then Attorney General Andwaka, I wrote to all of them that, look, this procedure is not right. The military must come here for confirmation before they assume, their duties.
Trouble began for Mr. Keyamo when the Deputy Minority Leader, Senator Darlington Mukocha, drew the attention of the Senate to events in 2020, when Mr. Keyamo held sway as the Minister of State for Labour as regards the 52 billion naira public works program. Senator Mukocha recalled how Mr. Keyamo at that time denied lawmakers the opportunity to oversight the program.
I want to bring to the notice of this House that sometime in 2020, that an issue came up. And that issue was the public works program. We all welcomed it with open hands because this is something that will help our people. Today we are talking about paying 8,000 to some people to make sure that it will alleviate poverty. Then it was the amount of 20,000 to 1,000 persons across the 774 local governments, which my local government is part of it. And I'm sure your local government is part of it. And today, 1,000 per each local government minimum, 20,000 naira, has a great multiplier effect that will make our people cushion so many effects that would have led our people into a very greater height. But what really happened? At a point, we wanted to carry out our responsibility, because if some people can use the instrumentality of law, which they find themselves within the confines of their own authority, to advance for all their justices, why can't we use the instrumentality of the legislature to support our people and help the populace, which we represent? Then, at that point, we invited the nominee, because this thing has been a subject of controversy and public debate, which I don't know. We wanted to know and give him fair hearing. Please tell us, because it's now within our own confines authority to know what happened to our constituents. Say, please come and tell us what really happened. What is the structure? What are the indices you are using to carry out these things? Because our people will hold us responsible and accountable. And when he was invited, what we are talking about is a 52 billion naira appropriation, and the right of appropriation resides on the legislature. That is our right. And I know quite well that the right of oversight resides on us, because we have to hold you accountable for whatever thing we appropriate to you. It is our right. And when he was invited, he expressly told us, to the public, that we want to hijack his role. That we want to blackmail us, that we are corrupt, that we want to hijack his role. And I know that he midwifed the process. Nobody's against that. He midwifed the process, and this falls within his own area of operation as the junior minister for labor and employment. Highly welcomed. And not only that, he went as far as in the public line to say that when he was asked, which indices did you use to gain this? He said, in quote, they are not from the moon. That was too arrogant to answer Nigerians that way. Because we're talking about what we support and help our people. That is why we are here. Anything outside that, I'll walk away from this chamber.
Senator Enyinaya Baribe quickly seconded the motion that Mr. Keyamo's ministerial screening be suspended.
Both the House of Representatives and the Senate, that I do support that this nominee should be stepped down pending when he decides that the National Assembly has that right to inquire into the workings of a minister and his ministry. I so second.
At this point, Mr. Keyamo's screening divided the Senate, with some senators calling for a division.
Distinguished senator, take your seats, please.
The Senate Minority Leader called for an executive session in an attempt to bring order to proceedings.
Mr. President, and very, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, may I at this time move that we dissolve into an executive session to be able to iron out some issues.
After 2 hours, the Senate ended and a sober-looking Keyamo was once again on the stage.
The apology is without reservation at all. I apologize. The only 2 things I just need to say before I go, because we are before the world, 1 or 2 things. One is that regarding that program, because when Nigerians hear a figure, their ears go up. Hey, one big figure has been mentioned. No. Regarding that program, every single payment, and I insisted to the past president that it must come from the central bank directly to the accounts of the people who were nominated to receive those funds. And like I said, I'm sorry for that misunderstanding.
A federal lawmaker made a case for Mr. Keyamo.
Now that he's apologized before the National Assembly, including myself, because I also have a question that I should ask. But now that I apologize, I want to appeal to the General House and the Senate under the leadership of Mr. Chairman, who the Senate President, that I am moving a motion for him to take the leave of the Senate and to go and not to sin again. Take a leave and go, and don't repeat such again now that you have apologized before this horror house.
Those who are in support of this motion say aye. Aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. The apologies are hereby accepted.
The Senate accepted his apology and was asked to exit the podium.
Will the Senate approve the nomination of...
The Senate proceeded to confirm the ministerial nominees.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The upper chamber confirmed a total of 45 nominees. 3 of the nominees, namely former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, Mrs. Stella Okotete from Delta, and Abubakar Danladi from Taraba State, were not confirmed because they're still undergoing security checks. Meanwhile, senators from the Southeast geopolitical zone are unhappy with the allocation of 5 ministerial slots to their region and urge President Bola Tinubu to appoint at least 2 additional ministers who are of Igbo extraction. The federal lawmakers insisted that their demand was to ensure fairness and justice in the representation of all geopolitical zones in the Tinubu government. The senator representing Anambra North, Tony Nwoye, presented the position of the Southeast senators.
Southeast geopolitical zone does not have one single representation in terms of zonal representation in the ministerial list. 48 ministers. Out of it, every zone in this country has additional 2 minimum. Northwest has extra ministers 3, Northeast has extra 2 ministers, North Central has 2 extra ministers, Southwest has extra 3 ministers representing the zone, South has extra 2 ministers representing the zone, Southeast has none.
Some of the principal officers of the Senate, led by the Senate President, had a meeting on Tuesday, July 8th, with the President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Joe Ajaero, and the President of a Trade Union Congress, Comrade Festus Osifo. The meeting is expected to be the first of several engagements between the Senate and the organized labor to find solutions to the problem of the increase in the cost of living and transportation as a result of the removal of fuel subsidy and its effect on Nigerian workers.
On Wednesday, August 2nd, Nigerian workers led by organized labor occupied the National Assembly to protest the hardship on Nigerians as a result of the removal of subsidy on petrol. The protesters submitted their demands to the Senate, which was in session, and the Senate resolved that it will, in the shortest possible time, meet with the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress to find an amicable resolution to the current impasse. During the week, the Senate leadership made good its promise to liaise with the unions by convening a meeting with the leadership of the NLC and the TUC. NLC president presented the grievances of the unions.
Since we're already working on the CNG option since 2020, and if there was consultation, we could have consummated that before the announcement. Because it is only when you have an option that the poor can breathe. Our agreement with government in 2020, the CNG was being targeted at 90 naira per litre, as an alternative to PMS that was at 185 then. The option of equally repair of refineries was looked into. We can't survive on PMS that is import driven. It's just not possible, especially given the position of our naira that we can't determine. If the naira goes to dollar tomorrow by 1,000, they increase again. No country survives like that.
Comrade Ajaero also expressed dissatisfaction with the level of progress in the engagement with the federal government.
Nigerians can't even go to work, our members. Even in our own little offices, they don't come to work because the wage is bad. It goes into transportation alone. So we had agreed for a wage award, which is not new in Nigerian parlance. From the dodgy days, dodgy award, to even early this year when the federal government paid 40% award to some of their employees. So we are conscious of that, and we have agreed on wage award, and up to this moment, the Committee on Wage Award is yet to sit.
The president of the TUC in his presentation says interventions brought forward by the federal government are not far-reaching. He also maintains that the country's political elite has not modeled the sacrifices which they demand from Nigerians during these difficult times.
Nigerians today, sir, if you take a sample of what Nigerians think today, Nigerians clearly believe that you are asking us, you are the political class, you are asking us to keep sacrificing, but we have not seen the palpable sacrifice from both the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary.
The president of the Senate assured the labor unions that they will work with the executive to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians.
The Senate will partner with you to put these ideas together. The Senate will be very glad to approach the executive arm of government in partnership with you to see how we can work together to reduce the sufferings of Nigerians. I'm pleading with you to bear with this administration that is less than 2 months old, to work together to put Nigeria on a path of progress. Subsidy, if we had left it, subsidy was killing Nigeria. Subsidy was capable of killing Nigeria. Subsidy will eventually have killed Nigeria. You have decided to allow Nigeria to breathe, that subsidy should go. We concur with your decision that Nigerians must breathe.
You're welcome back to the Gavel. The National Assembly is on recess, but committees in the House of Representatives continued with its investigative hearings and other legislative activities during the week.
By saying that they do not know...
It's been an explosive investigative hearing by the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee investigating job racketeering at ministries, departments and agencies. On Monday, July 7th, during the continuation of the hearing, Mr. Haruna Kulu, an ex-aide to the chairperson of the Federal Character Commission, Muhiba Dankaka, confessed to selling federal employment slots to job seekers at the directive of his former boss.
When she came, she wrote a letter to the Accountant General then that any correspondent that is coming from Federal Character Commission should not be attended to unless if she's the one that signs the letter. Sir, the Shehu is the one that brought people, so many people, like almost 25 of them. One will pay 1 million, the other will pay 1.5 million, all to my personal accounts. After which she instructed me to give her the cash, all in cash installments.
The committee continued with its investigation the following day, and this time the committee had before them officials of the Energy Commission of Nigeria, and some interesting revelations were made.
I noticed not only your agency, but majority of the agency, they use this waiver on advertisement to cause this employment racketeering. For me, I think it's deliberate.
However, the chairman of the commission denies any wrongdoing.
We have nothing to hide. We don't do anything shady within the commission. Among the applications that we have the best of the best among them.
Government agencies were granted waiver by the Federal Character Commission to carry out recruitment without advertising job vacancies. This approval does not sit well with the committee.
Waiver is a fraud because agencies are hiding under waiver to recruit their family members, to recruit their friends, to recruit those that give them money, to sell slots, etc., etc.
Meanwhile, a witness who appeared before the committee and spoke in a native language testified against the former desk officer in charge of the Integrated Personnel Payroll Information System at the Federal Character Commission, Mr. Haruna Kulu, of collecting 2 million naira for job placement in the FCC.
Haruna Kulu, when he approached him, he called the person that needed to buy the slot and told him he had gotten the slot. He should send him his document. The man sent him documents, and he told Kolo that the guy that needed the slot have sent him documents. How much will the guy pay? He now say he should tell the guy 2 million naira.
Mr. Kolo and his current employer, the Asset Management Company of Nigeria, were summoned to appear before the committee on Thursday, August 10th for the continuation of the probe. Also summoned for the next meeting is the Director of IPIS and Accountant General of the Federation. But the following day, the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee called for the arrest of Mr. Kulu for failing to show up at the hearing.
The committee adjourned and asked him to appear the next day. He didn't. We called on him to appear yesterday through his agency AMCOM. He's nowhere to be found. We hereby adjourn to write to the Speaker of the House of Representatives to issue a warrant of arrest in respect to Haruna Kolo and compel his appearance before this committee.
The committee also issued a deadline of August 14th for the Asset Management Company of Nigeria and other agencies who disobeyed its earlier summons to appear before the committee. On Constituency Focus this week, we spoke with Representative Francis Weve, representing Uheli North, Uheli South, Udu Federal Constituency, on his plans for his people in the next 4 years.
The people of Uheli North, Uheli South, and Udu Federal Constituency of Delta State are in their need of federal presence. Federal presence in terms of alleviating the sufferings that they go through in the areas of natural issues, flooding, ecological issues, challenges, annual challenges with herdsmen, and then settlement of inter-boundary disputes, and then infrastructure. Despite our being one of those constituencies out of the 360 in the country that produced one of the highest quantum of gas and crude oil, contributing in a great measure to the national revenue, we get very little in terms of federal presence. I mean, Ugele North, Ugele South, and Udu. And this is a challenge for us, which I try to tackle in my first tenure, and would put everything into tackling in the second tenure. And then our people being in federal positions is also a very serious issue that we want to look at. Presently, the boards have been, of the MDAs have been dissolved. And so we're looking forward to our people taking their rightful place in the scheme of things and not being oppressed or marginalized, particularly when you realize that this is one of the largest constituencies in the country. There are some constituencies put together are not up to one of my local governments. And so you can imagine the pressure that I go through from my people to be sure that they get ahead here at the federal level. And of course, I'm up to the task. They trusted me in 2019. They've trusted me again in 2023. I'm not going to let them down. The main duty of a legislator is lawmaking. And the major law that we make as lawmakers every year is the Appropriation Act. So it's to ensure that the needs of our people are captured by the Appropriation Act. That's the first assignment. And then when they are captured, and that they are executed. So I'm taking a feel from my people, the specific needs, and ensuring that they are captured. And then I'll be here speaking, ensuring that whatever happens at home is heard here in the nation's capital. I mean, in each of the 3 local governments, whatever is happening there is captured here, both in the budget and on the floor and in committees of the House of Representatives of the National Assembly. Those are the ways we're going to do that. When we go on oversight and see what the ministries are doing, I would ensure that the federal character is implemented in such a way that my people are carried along and benefit from what the Constitution provides for every Nigerian. So my people can be sure that all those beautiful things I did in the first tenure, electricity, schools, and all of that, we're going to do much more in this tenure. My constituency office is there and everybody knows it. The first tenure, it was located on Ugele Patani Road, which was the major highway in the constituency, and everybody knows the place. And we had staff there, and people were going there. There were regular meetings. And I used to be there every fortnight to listen to people, to keep office hours. And this time I'm going to continue the same. The office is now on Orugun Road. The signpost is very clear, is strong, is there. The officers there. Once constituents drop their mails there, it gets to me electronically within 24 hours, and people get response to their needs. And I will maintain that tradition of meeting with our people fortnightly, those who make themselves available. Of course, I'll be looking forward to constructive engagements. In politics, there will be those who will come for their personal needs and expect that you would break the vaults of the banks and give them everything. But those who come within the law and those who come politely, they would, of course, have access to me as usual, and then we'll be able to channel their needs to the appropriate quarters. Communities who are able to articulate properly what they need, they would have a hearing here. And through the constituency office, which is manned by competent staff, there's somebody there always. There's a secretary, there is a liaison officer. In fact, my SLA is spending more time at home now than he did in the first tenure. It's one of the rejigging that we have done to be sure that we're able to get our people's feelings and opinion on what we do here in Abuja.
This is where we call it a day on this week's edition of The Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.